Hello everyone, this video is on lies and deception from a spiritual perspective. And I got inspired to make this video when I was at a dinner party and I was talking about my snake Florence here, and somebody was terrified and told a story which I have heard many times about snakes that is incorrect, which is a lie and propaganda against what is a beautiful, gentle species. And the lie said that there was a snake once upon a time that wanted to eat its owner, and it started to lie next to its owner in order to measure itself up to see when it would be big enough to eat its owner. And I hear this, I think I've heard this about 10 times. And so I don't know who made that up, but it isn't true. There can be propaganda and lies against species. It's a form of speciesism, just like there's racism. I don't even know whether that word exists, but it feels like speciesism. People can get terrified of certain things like sharks, and they see Jaws and the music, and then they feel terrified. But sharks are very gentle creatures, and if you've ever scuba dived with sharks, they don't bother you. And animals don't bother humans unless they bother them. And snakes are deeply misunderstood, and I've kept snakes my whole life, and no snake is measuring itself up in order to eat me. And if there are accidents and people get bitten or even killed, which can happen, I mean, these are wild animals, it's not the animal's fault, it's the owner's fault. Maybe the owner's not feeding it properly, maybe the owner's taunting it or being aggressive, or it's a trauma response. Animals don't want to harm humans. Florence is very gentle. She's healing. She will never bite. And she's going to grow to be 6, 7 foot. And at no point is she going to start measuring herself against me and wanting to eat me. And they kind of are much more intelligent than people give them credit for. I have an eastern indigo, and that eastern indigo can eat other snakes, but because it's not fed other snakes, it doesn't go for snakes and it doesn't go for Florence. But I am careful when they're interacting together, just in case. But you just have to understand the creatures. You just have to understand the creatures. You just have to respect them, respect their boundaries, understand how your energy and your mindfulness and your stillness can create a safe container for them to enjoy interacting with you. And she's very happy here, and she will stay with me for the whole video, and she will help calm my nervous system and help me channel information. And most people think, oh, well, if you hold a snake, that's not calming, that's terrifying. No, snake are like fish. They're very beautiful. You can watch their movements. Very meditative creatures. So let's see what Florence and I can come up with around lies, manipulation, and deception today. So I'm going to enter a few minutes silence with Florence. Well, there's an honesty in the animal kingdom. what you see is what you get. I mean, some creatures are camouflaged and they do have what could appear to be, from a human perspective, some deception. But I do sense that that is a co-creation and an agreement between the predator and its prey. It's like a dance they have together. It's not serious. It leads to some unique evolutionary traits which wouldn't happen if it wasn't for the predator prey dynamic. So it keeps things moving on, it keeps things interesting when things embody. It's not really a mental, manipulative form of deception, like there's creatures being cunning and deceiving each other. That's not, it's not coming from an egoic personality. And so they have a pre-agreement. They're going to have this dance together. They're going to communicate to one another during the dance. Certain people can understand and read what's going on between the predator and prey dynamic. If you speak to Aborigine Indians or Aborigines in certain cultures, such as in Australia, they will tell you that they can see lights between the prey and the predator. So there's a light communication, and the predator will be able to track the prey, and the prey is giving off a light to the predator. So they're communicating, and there's an agreement, and it's not really deceptive because on a subtle level they know what's going on. And I've seen this where my cats are hunting lizards or rats or mice, and my personality, my human personality, gets very stressed about it and wants to save the mouse or wants to save the lizard. And I'll run and I'll interfere sometimes, and I'll save the lizard or I'll save the mouse, and then I'll put it in the bushes, and it comes right back. It comes right back. It doesn't run off. And so the same lizard that I've put in the bushes will sometimes come right back because it has an agreement on a subtle level with my cat that it's agreed that it's going to be eaten. And so it's hard for us to really understand that sometimes. And our heart space can get very upset when we see what we perceive to be as cruel, or the cat's like hunting and being manipulative and pretending it's safe when it's not, and then pouncing. But we don't need to get all caught up in trying to figure it out from a mental perspective. We can just carry on with our life. Maybe if we have a meditation practice, keep meditating. And then sometimes through repeated meditation practice, stillness, and moving on our spiritual path, we can start to feel at ease and less triggered by what's going on in the animal kingdom and who's eating who and why and how horrific that is. That kind of just fades. And there's a peacefulness in the diversity in the animal kingdom. There's a peacefulness even when things are getting eaten and consumed and made into the cells of the other body. It's just understood differently. It's not understood here, it's just understood here in a more spacious place that has the capacity to understand things that the mind doesn't understand. And so when we return back to the subject of lying, lying and deception in the human realm comes from a personality that's insecure. Humans interacting with other humans is not the same as animals interacting with other animals. There's a real honesty when animals are reacting to other animals. They're not trying to be perceived a certain way. They're very at ease with their body, their status. There can be a few scuffles in the monkey kingdom, though, and even within certain mammals. So there can be personalities in certain animal species that has these scuffles. But I do sense that animals don't take it to heart, don't take it so seriously, and their personalities are much less, if not dysregulated. So humans have dysregulated personalities. Animals do not have dysregulated personalities unless they're living with humans. So when we're talking about dysregulated personalities, within a dysregulated personality, there can be insecurity. There can be feelings of being not worthy of existing. There can be feelings of needing to be in a certain social group or status or money or inadequacy. And when that happens and people get graspy and needy and caught up in this egotistical realm, they can start to lie, they can start to deceive to get what the dysregulated personality thinks it needs. And this is to do with childhood wounding. Childhood wounding leads to some people developing the capacity to lie. And they can develop it to quite an extent where they can have two families at the same time, where they can become con artists, where they can stop believing their own lies, where they can really get into a strange disassociated state and do all sorts of things. But we don't want to shame them. We don't want to get angry at people who lie, because we have to understand that the lies, it comes from childhood wounding. It comes from insecurity. It comes from not understanding that we're connected to everything, to all beings, and what we do to another, we do to ourselves. And it comes from feeling unsafe, feeling like you need to be different in order to get the resources that you need. Love, for example. Maybe if you're dating, you feel the need to kind of pretend to have more money than you have in order to secure a female. Or, you might need to commodify yourself in order to get some interest. So whether it's dressing up to the nines, pushing the boobs out, thinking that I'm not going to get a partner unless I'm commodifying my body parts, of being an object to be consumed, that's quite a sensitive subject for some people, because I think that some people, especially in the dating realm, they lie because they'll present as hypersexual, for example. They'll present with their boobs out. They'll present, or a man with his pecs out. They'll present in a way which might not be congruent to actually who they are. So they may not be hypersexual, but they may need to lie and pretend that they are in order to receive love. They might even start losing touch with who they are as an individual and what their soul actually needs. Some people might just start copying what other people are doing to get partners and losing touch with who they are. They might not need that much sex or attention. They might not need that much money. They may not like to even lead the life that they're chasing. And then when they chase it and they manipulate their body and they do jobs they don't want to do to get money, and then they end up in a life, the life itself that they've constructed through insecurity can feel like a lie, because we're all designed a certain way when we come in. It's very unique to us. We have a sexual design, we have a dharmic design, things that only us can do really well, and it's going to bring us joy, and we're good at it, and other people say we're good at it, and we really enjoy it. But sometimes we can just forget about that and run in another direction, lying to ourselves, lying to other people, and then feel lost or get into an existential crisis. And one of the most important things in life is to discover who you are. If you have the privilege of doing that, some people don't. Some people are just trying to put food on the table and they'll have to do whatever they can. But if you're in a position where you have some choice, some time and resources to just stop and pause and figure it out, the world will benefit rather than just go, 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 do what everybody else is doing, copy what the person next door is doing or what that influencer is doing. If you can just pause and discover who you are, then it won't feel like a lie. And you don't want to live a lie. And that can sometimes be an interesting journey to go on, because you might discover things that might upset other people or might trigger other people or your partner or your friends. You might need a new friend group because your friends and who you hang out with are not really connected to who you are as a person. It's connected to a lie that you've told yourself. And no, maybe you're fine and maybe you've figured it out. But sometimes we can just get so lost living other people's lives, or maybe we're in a relationship with somebody and we forget our joy, we forget our talents, and we just start being of service to the other person, so much so that we forget who we are. And then a relationship might end and we might be completely lost. Who am I? What do I even like to do? What do I like to wear? How sexual am I? Was I just pretending? And this can get really complicated with people in the public eye who have publicists or a certain image. They can get lost in the image. They can get lost in the lie that the publicists are selling to the audience and start believing they are that person. And it gets even more complicated when you're actors and you're in roles. So you have a double layer of it. I'm playing roles. I'm getting lost in the roles, and then I'm getting lost in the publicity. And then jumping from job to job, it can get really confusing. And it might, you might need time to figure that out. Or you might be very grounded and know who you are and have really good friends who reflect back to you that you're being rude or obnoxious, rather than just being yes, 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 you're wonderful. And that can happen too, where people start believing the lies that their publicists tell them. So I'm just going to go back into silence for a minute and see what else comes up. Compassion. Compassion for people who feel the need to lie. And this is the people that know that they're lying, that they need to say something that they know isn't true to somebody else because they're afraid that the love is going to be withdrawn. And lying can occur because we need to be loved. If we're not loved, we don't feel fully alive. If we're not able to give and receive love in a fluid back and forth flow, we can feel deeply alone because the heart space, it wants to love, it wants to flow love out, and it wants love to be flown back in, and it's out and in and out and flow, flow, flow. But if that flow is blocked by the person that you would like to flow it to, judging you, you feel the need to lie in order to give the love because it's an insecurity. Some people on their spiritual journey reach a place where they don't care whether they receive love back. They'll just love, love, love. And even if the person doesn't reciprocate, they still feel the benefit of giving the love. And mothers might or parents might experience this if they have difficult children. They love the children anyway, it's unconditional. But at a certain level, when we give love, we want to receive love back. And so it's a very vulnerable place to be open and say, I love you, or to be open and say, I'd like to hang out with you and connect with you. And if that person says, well, you don't look good enough to hang out with me, or you're not wealthy enough to hang out with me, or you, you need to do something, a favor for me in order for you to hang out with me, or it can just go on and on and on, or you're not the right culture for me to hang out with you and you want to hang out with them, there might be a tendency to think, well, I'll just lie. I'll pretend I have more money. I'll pretend that I'm okay doing those favors, and then I'll do them, and then I'll feel really weird afterwards and maybe passive aggressive or used. And so we can start, and it can start really small with just little lies, and then it can get really big. And then it can get to the point where we get so used to lying, we don't even realize we're doing it. It can just become part of the personality, part of life, part of the way that we secure our emotional needs. And then it leads to loneliness because deep down we know on a subconscious level that if we weren't wealthy, that person wouldn't hang out with us. If we weren't good looking, they wouldn't want to hang out with us. If we weren't doing those favors, they wouldn't want to hang out with us. And then there's always this anxiety. What if I lose my looks? Which everybody does at some point. What if I lose my money? And that can happen to anybody unless they're really, really wealthy. What if I no longer can perform in the bedroom? And that's why Viagra's doing so well. What if, what if, what if? It's always, am I going to be discarded? And when people are afraid of being discarded, they will lie. They will lie as much as they can to secure what they feel that they need. And that can be a person, that can be a job, that can be anything. And so I have real compassion for people who feel that they need to lie. And sometimes there's a lot of shaming for people who cheat and, they cheated on their partner and they're liars and they're evil. Why do people cheat on their partners? Why do they lie to people that they say that they love? Well, they're lying to themselves ultimately by thinking that they can get away with it, because even if the person doesn't find out, there's an energy that changes on a subtle level, and the other party will know it. Even if it's not on a conscious level, they'll know it on a subconscious level, and it creates a split, and the sanctity of the relationship is lost. And so both parties, they might just feel uncomfortable. One might know on a very subtle level and just stick their head in the sand because they don't quite know what's going on. It doesn't feel quite right, and they can still work on it. So when people are cheating, they're lying to themselves, thinking their partner will not know. The partners always know. They're also lying about the reasons that they perceive they need to have an affair. So people can post rationalize, oh, well, they don't want to have sex anymore, or oh, we just grew apart, or oh, the personality can lie in order to get away with, and they don't get away with it, the behavior. The personality is just miraculous. It can come up with a reason to do anything. But the energy it takes to construct a lie and to live a lie is so draining, and it's not worth the cost. And if people really understood the energy it takes to compartmentalize, they wouldn't bother doing it in the first place. It might be just easier to find somebody that you can have some deep conversations with and come with an agreement in the relationship, whatever it might be, or find somebody else. And so, why do people lie in relationships? They lie for many reasons, and I'm going to go into a new reason now about lying in relationships, is feeling like the person that they want to tell the truth to can't receive the truth, can't have enough unconditional awareness and non judgment to receive what they're saying. And so, for instance, somebody might be feeling the need to have multiple partners all of a sudden. They can't go to their partner and say, I'm feeling the need to have multiple partners. What do I do? Because they know that they'll get slapped in the face or kicked in the balls or whatever it might be, or dumped. And so they don't ever get to have a conversation around, oh, really? Why? Why do you feel that need? Where is that coming from? Should we go to couples therapy to see how we can solve this? It's immediately shamed. And the sex drive is a really big drive. And people often are going to come across desires to want to be with other people. Whether they act on it's different. And some people don't have the capacity to have a conversation with their partner about it, to say, I'm struggling. What should we do? What is the solution to this? Do we need to split up because I'm not ready? What do we need to do? Is there something we can do to solve the problem? And that never happens because there isn't safety in a relationship to talk about it. Now, sometimes if somebody's maybe got narcissistic tendencies, it can get like a bit of a matrix, and there can be a lot of gaslighting, and and nobody really knows where they stand. So it's a tricky subject. I'm not saying it's an easy subject. It's a very delicate subject, and that's why we really need to understand humans and be able to spot when people are lying. And that can be difficult because our own childhood wounding can lead to us wanting to people please, can lead to us wanting to see the best in people, can lead to us wanting to save our relationships and not see that somebody is lying to us. And this can be very deep and on a subconscious level. So we don't want to know that they're lying to us because it's easier to stick your head in the sand and lie to yourself that believing that they wouldn't do that and ignore the warning signs and ignore the facts and just make excuses. And so usually in dynamics where there's lying in relationships, there's a person that senses it but doesn't want to believe it, and a person that chooses somebody else that they can manipulate. And so it's really important to kind of understand yourself at a deep level and what your wounding is and why you might want to believe lies. And that you might want to believe the lies that your president or your prime minister is telling you. You might want to believe the lies that your parents are telling you. You might want to believe the lies that your boss is telling you. You might want to believe the lies that you tell yourself because you maybe don't have a safe space to even go into what you would have to do when you enter a reality where you're being lied to. You maybe just don't have the ability to comprehend that somebody else can lie so easily or has been lying for many years or is that manipulative. Maybe you'd enter some existential crisis and be very depressed or have to take some action, whether it's leave the relationship or vote for somebody else or leave, you know, the place you're working, or just understand that people are human and they're wounded and it makes them lie and feel that they need to manipulate other people because they have a false perception of being a separate person. And we have to have compassion because lying is part of human personalities. Everybody is lying or is going to be lied to at some point in their life. We don't need to get so triggered and shocked about it, like I was lied to. Let's just relax and understand wow, this comes from insecurity. This comes from fear. This is natural. It's part of being a human and having a human personality. How can I see things more clearly? Maybe I need to get more streetwise. Maybe I need to get some therapy. Maybe I need to understand other people and psychology and meditation and not spiritually bypass, because some people use meditation techniques to dissolve the stress in life, and some people can get so good at dissolving the stress that it makes them able to stay in a situation where they're being lied to because they'll just meditate or they'll just do their practices which bliss them out. And it makes them more able to just not see. And so, if we do have self care and practices, know if we're using them to spiritually bypass what's going on in our lives. And some people who don't have spiritual practices or meditation practices might use drugs or intoxicating themselves so that they can dumb themselves down so they don't see the lies. So they're just like, I can't deal with that. Maybe I'm being lied to. Oh, I'll just get drunk or I'll get high or I'll just take a load of plant medicine and think everybody's one and then spiritually bypass, or I'll try and be polyamorous, even though I'm very deeply upset. That can be used to spiritually bypass. Some people will try to have orgies and polyamorous relationships and lying to themselves, thinking that they're okay with it when they're not. I'm a spiritual person. I have to be okay that my partner can have sex with whoever they want. And I'm not judging. I'm just saying, be honest. If you're jealous and you're struggling and your cortisol levels are really high, then don't go do a load of orgies and get into polyamorous relationships. It's not going to be good for your health. What do you think, Florence? Do you lie to me? No, she never lies to me. And that's why people love animals, because they're so honest. What you see is what you get. If you're in a bad mood, you change your position. If you're in a good mood, I can tell you're in a good mood. There's nothing hidden. And that's really beautiful. So I pray. It's difficult to pray when she's on my hand, but I pray that we all can understand ourselves at a very deep level, understand that it's natural for people to lie due to insecurity and fear, and may we dissolve insecurity and fear in ourselves so that we no longer feel the need to lie or the need to stick our head in the sand and not see that we are being lied to. And the more people that do this, the more beautiful the world will be.